Chris has championed responsible bidder more than any other council member, but it's only been applied to MSD projects. Why is that, and why do you think responsible bidder is a good idea?
Sure. A little bit of background. Responsible bidder is based on a resolution passed by the county that the county actually adopted in 2010, and then has now been additionally applied by the city. Responsible bidder applies to MSD and Waterworks, but primarily MSD is now embarking on a $3 billion project groundwork, which is our required replacement of $3 billion worth of sewers. We've worked on a project called Responsible Bidder Ordinance that so far 9 contracts have gone out under, all came in within 1% of the engineer's estimate. Actually, 6 were under the engineer's estimate. So there is no cost increase seen with the ordinance, as has been said. But primarily it's been used as a tool to bring more people into the table, using this massive project of $3 billion worth of development to get contractors to include more residents in contracting for construction jobs through apprenticeship programs that are helping. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Carolyn, is that where we are? Yes? Yep. Carolyn, your question for Jon.
What would Mr. Seelbach say about infrastructure needs in the city? What would be his top priorities for city funding for large capital projects?
Sure. So obviously the first thing that we think about is our roads. And after several years of the city coming in below 100 lane miles per year, this council, and Councilmember Seelbach was one of the, I think, 6 people to sign this ordinance, said the administration above all else in capital projects must fund minimum of 100 lane miles a year. And this year, we're actually on track to just pass that a little bit, going closer to 110 lane miles. Beyond that, Councilmember Seelbach has supported increasing our enforcement on some of our bridges. A lot of the council members have been pushing for increased bridge security and working on partnerships with the state to fund some of our bridges, working with local partners, including cities adjacent to ours, where we usually do everything different. And we may have a bridge between Columbia Township and Kennedy Heights, which is in dire need of repair, and we're finally working together to work with the state, Columbia Township, and the city of Cincinnati to repair that bridge financially in a sustainable way.
Okay, Kevin?
Sure. Several non-incumbents tonight have criticized the lack of transparency in decision-making at City Hall. For example, the City Council has changed its rules to allow things like the pocket veto, not separating a question. I'd like to know, what do you think about that, and do you think there is enough transparency at City Hall?
Sure. One of the things that Chris has called out quite frequently is actually the lack of communication and transparency in the administration, and I'll get to council in a moment. But in the administration, we have seen so many projects, whether they're good or bad. For example, there's, of course, everyone will think of the parking in the streetcar, that one of the biggest failures that everyone will agree is that there was no citizen input early on, especially with the parking deal. This ability to be open about what you're working on rather than just sending it out as an RFP going, here's our new thing, we'll hold one hearing and hopefully you show up and say what you want and then we'll go ahead and do it. That doesn't work. Back to council, Councilmember Seelbach and I, with a co-sponsor of Councilmember Sittenfeld, sponsored a Google for Government plan for the city that hopefully, with more support, can be implemented that would ensure that all projects, all funding that the city's considering is put on an easily accessible website ahead of time, so you're not finding things out at the last minute or hearing that council passed a budget with things stuck in, but everything is available and accessible online, increasing our transparency.
Human Services has been underfunded for nearly a decade. Why has this happened? And do you see these services being fully funded during the coming 4 years?
The Human Services Fund is one of the most unique and powerful funds that the City Council currently supports. Chris has considered it one of his top priorities, and what's amazing about it is right now, even with the huge cuts that they've suffered over the last few years, you have almost 50 organizations that make a direct impact into people's lives through this fund. In the last budget, which was had some huge cuts out, as Yvette mentioned, with the $30 million deficit, there were some cuts into the Human Services Fund. And as soon as revenue came in higher than projected, restoring that Human Services Fund was a huge priority for Councilmember Seelbach. The administration recommended car allowances for top senior officials, And council rejected that and said, we're going to start with the people who need it most, and that's the Human Services Fund. Chris has also said that he has a goal to move up 0.1% in our budget, which is such a small percentage, each year for the next 4 years to return to 1% by 2017, which is still not even at the 1.5% goal, which council set years ago. Again, I'm representing council member Chris Seelbach. So many great things are happening in Cincinnati right now, but there are still areas that need dramatic investment. The Focus 52 Fund is a key tool that Councilmember Seelbach supports and wants to protect going forward. Additionally, we really see a city that has huge areas of investment with some challenges, and we need right people willing to make some tough choices and stand up to make those investments. And I really hope that Councilmember Seelbach earns your vote on November 5th. Thank you.